So how did you become who you are in your practice, and how do you think you differ from how other doctors help their patients?
That's a great question. First of all, Dr. Joy, I'm so excited to be here. And to all your listeners, thank you for giving me some of your air space and airtime. Uh, and I
You're
hope
so
that we
welcome.
entertain you and give you some important topics to take home. As you said, I have a practice called EG Healthcare, and it's kind of a typical primary care practice for families, pediatric, adult, geriatric. And when I started it, I did the typical things. So, for all you listeners, whatever you're imagining when you go to your primary care doctor, NP or PA, the annual visit, the sick visits, that's what EG Healthcare is about. And it's not wrong, and it's important, and it's important if you have a disease, you certainly want to find it and you certainly want to treat it, but it's also not 100% right because it is really geared to find disease and then treat it. And if you don't have a disease and maybe you're just not feeling well and you're in the world of unwellness, then there's no room for you in primary care. And if you do have a disease and you want to have a conversation about treating it without medication, then again, there's no room for you in primary care. So they're not wrong, but they're not completely right. Uh, I would like to share a personal story of what made me pivot from what you and I learned in school and to make a decision to provide different care. If you would indulge me in that. As always, I think most of us who went to school, we have to have some sort of personal experience, either ourselves or our family, where we realize, wait a minute, there's something more here. So in my case, it was when she was diagnosed. When I met her, my wife was a vampire. So not the cool kind of vampire that's immortal, but she had a disease called PMLE, which stands for polymorphous light eruption. And what that means is that she was allergic to the sun. So we jokingly called her a vampire because we couldn't go out in the sun. And but we managed, right? What do you do when you get your first diagnosis or your first pill or your first aches and pains? You manage. We just didn't go out and during the day, and we just changed our life accordingly, and we just accepted it as our fate. But then the second autoimmune happened, which for those of you listening, autoimmune comes in more than one, and we're going to talk about why later. The second autoimmune came for her, which was psoriasis, which is so severe, it was on her feet. She couldn't walk without her feet bleeding. And so that's when we were like, wait a minute, maybe we should stop accommodating and start searching. And for many of you listeners, sometimes that second diagnosis or something that pushes you over the edge that makes you think, well, it's time to do something else. So I'm in medicine, my wife's in medicine, all our friends are in medicine, and everyone offered us some form of high dose medication. And that's not what we wanted. And none of our schooling gave us the answer. And there's a lot of schooling between all of us. So someone suggested that we go to functional medicine. And we were like, okay, but insert eye roll here. Like that's not really going to be a thing. But what do we have to lose? So we went and he ran this crazy blood work that we never heard of before. And he changed our diet. What? We had a great diet. What are you talking about? We didn't think we had a bad diet. Gave us some supplements, and guess what? It worked. I mean,
Wow.
her skin cleared up. She's able to go in the sun. I mean, our entire life was changed, completely changed, blown away, personally, but also professionally, because we were never told, Dr. Joy, you were never told that diet's going to cure PMLE, right? In med school. We're never told that diet's going to cure psoriasis. In fact, if you mention it, you're kind of like on the edge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've been to many a derm lecture when I suggested it, and they're like, no, there's no connection. So, okay. So I realized I have to bring this back to my practice. And for many of my patients, so I went back to school, Institute of Functional Medicine, got my PhD in integrative medicine, and then I brought it back to the practice in the form of the new method.
Wow.